Hi. I'm Cindy with an S. And a Y and an I, but not what you think. So I found this book, sad and abandoned and wet, and I dried it out, and it's actually quite lovely, and I'd like to read you one by one the little stories of the periodic elements. Today I'm going to start with the introduction, and then I'm just going to go by the atomic mass, the atomic weight, through the rest of them, bit by bit. I mean, we'll see how far I get. I just thought I'd read you the introduction to kind of like have some sort of like unifying feature to them all. Secret Lives of Elements. There's also like neat pictures that go along with all the elements too. It's a really sweet little book. Introduction. Just as illustrated alphabets feature on the walls of nurseries, posters of the periodic table adorn most science classrooms and are a familiar sight from our school year days. Well, the illustrated alphabets of our infancy show us the building blocks of language. The periodic table is a summary of the building blocks of life, the elements that make us and all things around us. Of the many ways to display these elements, one version is more familiar than most and takes shape as a long, low castle with a tower at each end. Each element forms one of the many bricks in its walls. You may have only glanced at the table, but you would know it anywhere. Such a ubiquitous image easily merges into the background, and yet this stunning creation conveys an extraordinary amount of information in its one simple image and deserves closer scrutiny. Pardon me. To me, the periodic table is a family of photograph, with all the branches of an extended family brought together for one gigantic wedding / funeral / baptism. Everyone is there, the conventional and dysfunctional family members, the extroverts and introverts, the standoffish and the friendly. Some elements get along with each other very well. A few are best kept apart, and a handful shun all but their own company. Families often have a common physical traits and quirks of personality, and this extended family of elements is no exception. By grouping elements together by the characteristics that connect them, the periodic table manages to reflect the complex kinship between different branches of the family in one coherent design. In broad terms, there are two types of element. Metals, 2/3 of all the elements collected on the left and center of the table, and non-metals, the remaining 1/3 occupying the top right. At a more detailed level of organization, the elements are grouped by specific chemical traits. Close relatives with similar characteristics find themselves in columns with their own family name. The alkaline earth metals, the chalagens, the halides. Neighboring columns are more like cousins, similar in some respects, but having more in common with members of their own group. The further apart two elements are placed on the periodic table, the more different they are from each other. The first column on the left contains the exuberant alkali metals, full of life and happiest in company. The last column on the far right of the table is made up of quiet, self-contained, noble gases that want to be left alone. The middle of the table, the low, flat blocks that form the body of the castle, is full of brash, colorful transition metals that are impossible to ignore. Below the main table, 2 rows of elements, the lanthides and the actinides, are distinct from the rest, but remarkably similar to each other. These two tight-knit teams of siblings have caused all kinds of headaches and heartaches for the scientists who have studied them. What's so brilliant about this sophisticated yet simple organization is that, even for the least familiar elements, the merest glance at the table reveals clues about their appearance, alongside a wealth of information about how they will interact with each other. Beyond the familial similarities, each element is an individual with his own personality and characteristics. The intention of this book is not to present an overview of the periodic table, but offers instead 52 elements with a story to tell. There are the tales of the science that makes the element special, and accounts of surprising discoveries. Some elements are relatively anonymous or new arrivals. Others, already familiar, are seen in a new light, and old friends have secrets to share. Welcome to the secret lives of elements. Come meet the family. Look forward to the follow-up elements as I get into the rest of this book. See you soon.